How's it going, everyone? I hope you guys are having a great day. Welcome back to another Web Dev Junkie video. In this video, a subscriber asked me if I could try to implement a drag and drop feature into this tree browser. So I did a tutorial on what you're seeing here on the left here in my channel, and I'll post a link below if you want to watch the full tutorial of how to build this. But basically, it's just a little application that kind of mimics a file browser where you can kind of dive in the files and folders, and we are going to be building off of that. So if you don't really know how I built this, definitely watch that. The first thing I did to try to implement a drag and drop feature where I can move folders and files around was I searched the internet for if there's an existing library. And it turns out there actually is one. So if you go here and go to View Draggable, there is a cool library that kind of implements this drag and drop stuff. And even more specifically, if you do some more investigation, type nested, you'll notice that they have an example of how you do drag and drop with nested components, which happens to be very similar to what we're doing right here, right? So we're going to try to use the code that they have provided with this tutorial. So the first thing that you'll notice is their list is an array of objects. So if we go to our data, which I think I called root, our data is actually an object with some stuff in it. So we want to wrap this entire thing with square brackets, and that'll set up our data in a way that we can actually use it for this library. All right, so before we can actually start using it, we need to make sure we do an npm install on it. So I'm going to stop this and just do an npm install there so you can guys see that. All right, there you go. We're installing View Draggable, getting a tons of errors because I'm using a really old version of Vue, and I probably should update. But at this point, I should be able to rerun my Vue CLI serve function and go to my tree browser, and hopefully it's set up. Now we do have some errors because we just refactored the data. So the code that we have now isn't going to work with that array data type. But what we can do is just follow their example. So I'm going to click on view code here. And the first thing you'll notice is that they basically just pass in that array to their recursive function. So let's go back to app and we're going to do that. So instead of passing node here, I'm going to pass nodes. And that is going to be coming from that root JSON that we had before. And nothing else needs to change in app.view. So let's go to the tree browser now. And let's set that up so it can take in a node. So let's go to props, change that to nodes, and that will be an array. And then we need to actually start importing this library that we found. So I'm going to go up a level. As you see here, they're importing this infra nested here. We're going to go up a level and we're going to go to infra, and then we are going to go to nested.view and see how they did it. So to get started, let's go ahead and import this draggable component, and now make sure you fix this or else it won't work. You don't need the @ symbol. So save that and make sure you also include it as a component so that you can use it. So I'll just go ahead and put that like right here. And that should be a good spot to put it. I'll close my terminal so you can actually like view what's going on. So let us try to build what they have. So the first thing you'll notice is that they wrap all of their stuff with a draggable component. So if I go here and just wrap everything with draggable, that should basically make all the elements inside of this a draggable type component. And then the second thing they do is they kind of loop over all of the nodes from their list one by one. So they make each and every one kind of like a draggable component. So I'm going to copy this code here and just put it here. Instead of saying L in task, I'm going to say L in nodes because nodes is getting passed in as props. Remember we made that little change? So because we changed nodes to be an array, we do have to fix some of our data a little bit. So if you go back down here, there are some functions that we're doing that won't really work. So let's change this to take in a node. So has children should take in a node. And this is basically just going to return node.children. So if they have children, it's just going to return a value. In fact, I could just do something like that. And then anywhere we call has children, we need to make sure we also pass in the node we're currently looking at. I think we call it somewhere else as well. So we call it here. So we need to pass in node. Node clicked needs to take in a node as well. So let's just pass that here. And we could pass it in here as well. So for our tree browser component, their recursive component, you'll notice that they don't do a recursive thing here. So what we actually need to do is get rid of the for loop here. And we only want to render this if our node has children. So I can say and has children of our current node. And that's the only time that we need to send it. And now, so another thing I'll point out is that remember we refactored the props to no longer take in a node, but instead it takes in an array called nodes. So here I'm going to refactor this and put an S for nodes, and here I'm going to say node.children. And this one could just be node.name. I'm sure there's some other places that we have broken code. Let's go back and refresh and see what bugs we actually have. It's saying has children is not a function. And the fact is, because I think I used that as computed, so I'm just going to pull this out into a function here, a method I should say, and then we should have access to use it. So now at this point, if I were to drag these things around, we did it. It's working. We just had to kind of hack around this code a little bit, but you notice here, everything is moving around. All right, so one thing you'll notice is that we can't actually drag this lower level file into a higher level parent, okay? So in order to fix that, we can actually go back and add this group property and put it directly on the draggable component. Now, I don't know why that does that. I need to look into why name of G1 actually fixes it. But now you have the ability to kind of drag things up and put them at a higher level, which is pretty sick. Now, I think the reason why when you drag out the README up to a top level, it's indented, and that is because the depth is still set on these things. So that's something that I will leave up to the subscriber to figure out how to fix, because I'm not going to do all this for you. But I hope this was a good overview of how to get this set up. We've pretty much grabbed a third-party library for dragging and dropping these nested components. You know, there is something I do want to show you though. So as this data structure is changing, we actually want to know when stuff changes. So what you could do, if you're familiar with the watch property, you could add a watch, and then you could add a watch to say, hey, I need to watch over root. And whenever root changes using deep if true and handler, you could literally just print it out. So I'm going to say console log new root. Yo, okay, so the other thing I forgot to put is I need to put list equals nodes here. And now you'll notice is that when I actually move the stuff around, it correctly prints out the order. But now we have a watcher set up, and whenever you move stuff around, let me just show you. If I were to take this create tree data and pull it to the front, and then kind of inspect what it looks like. If I look at the first element of the children, notice that it says create tree data. And that's saying if I keep dragging stuff up. So basically what I'm trying to say is that this root object now is going to have a new structure of what you want. Like all of the positioning and nesting of your arrays and objects will represent what you're looking at. And that is basically how you set up a drag and drop plugin with the tutorial I did before. So I know you said to upload one that was an unedited video, but I'm going to edit this one because other people might watch this. And I definitely spent a lot of time trying to debug that I forgot to put this in. So when you're looking at other people's examples and code, make sure you actually follow their examples. Make sure you don't forget things like this. So a simple mistake on my part, but I hope this overview shows you how to do it. Let me know if this was a good little tutorial and it kind of solved your problem. All right, so thank you so much for watching. Happy coding.